Hey, what's up guys? In this video, I'm going to be doing some bus processing of a piece of audio information that doesn't really fit into something that you'd normally think of like a bus. So a bus, typically speaking, is a collection of like-minded instruments. Usually they're like drums, like this. It could be for like the type of music that we make, it's like, kick and bass and some percussion. But I didn't want to include these, which is the bus we're going to be working with. I don't want to include them because I don't want the information to kind of get lost. I want some separation. And buses are a really good way to get clarity in your mix. So you work on individual sounds and you get them right in context. And then you bus them and then you process them some more to kind of put them even more together. And then that way you get more of a pleasing separation. And it's kind of like a complex mathematical formula. Like you want to break it down into separate parts, and then you're able to solve it. And that's basically what we're doing. So I have the bus here that we're going to use as context. Just a basic techno jam. And then I have these. Right? And those will sound neat when they talk to that. Right? But they need to be processed in some way, in a lot of ways. So I'm going to use a fun thing that I like to do, and that is using reverb and then using compression as, like over compression as an effect. So like, where the compression is very apparent. I'm just going to drag that on, maybe just do that, give it a little bit of that, do that, and I'm just going to leave that just for the sake of time. Drop in a compressor. Basic Ableton compressor, maybe go like around 4:1. And what that does is that accentuates the reverb and gives you a little bit of volume as well. That's all about kind of planning ahead. Right, and I'm going to work with that. Let's give that a listen. What does that sound like? That needs to be long. And these might be a little bit slow. I'm just going to move them over like so. Right, cool. And that is just a basic kind of rundown of using reverb and compression as an effect. I'm going to group those and leave them like so. So from here, I want to listen. Right, so these two yellow ones are, a little bit more punchy than this one up here. I want to give them a little bit more consistency in their volume and dynamic. So how I would go about doing that is with another compressor, which I'm going to do that just to kind of prepare it for the things I'm going to do. I'm going to turn off makeup gain, right? Because, I don't want the volume to be compensated depending on what's being fed into it. I want things to be kind of leveled off. And we're going to see that very quickly. So I'm going to bring down the attack because fortunately for our, for the kind of music that we make, there aren't a whole lot of rules. It's just whatever sounds good to your ears. Rules and conventions are broken all the time. And that's what we're going to be doing here. So I'm going to bring down the threshold. Right? And what that's effectively done is it's smoothed out both of these. And, it's still kind of popping, so I'm going to increase the ratio, which is more gain reduction as we're adventuring. Not too bad. Okay, I'm gonna leave that. I'm gonna boost the gain a little bit. right, to make up for it because you don't have the automatic makeup gain selected. I'm going to leave that. I don't want to pummel it too much because I'm going to venture on to the next step. So from here, I'm going to drop in mix rack because this will do something pretty fun, and we can get, you know, a little bit more creative and aggressive with it. Or not aggressive. It's hard to explain. But you know, I'm gonna find, yeah, New York maybe. So I just went into the harmonic kind of modeling uh, the modules, and I want to add just some stuff to it. And I'm also going to get the trim in there, wherever it is. There it is. And this will be our little safety, which we can move around in case things get a little bit too intense. Even though there's an output thing here, I just like to have this just because it's fun. Right, and what that's doing is that's effectively, yeah, smoothing out some of the transients there. Not the transients, it's smoothing out the harmonics. It's when you saturate something, it it does something interesting to the overall like frequency content, but it also adds a little bit of compression as well. And it adds a warmness as well. And I'm gonna leave that, and I'm going to get an EQ in there. Just shows a random EQ, and console EQs are really fun, and I recommend you use them. This is a console EQ. It's not like, you know, FabFilter or anything. This forces you to kind of use your ears a little bit more and do things that you wouldn't normally do. So we have the frequency selection here, and then the gain and boost and stuff like that. So the typical workflow is you give it a boost, right? Right, that's not a good example. I'll give a better example. I'll find yeah, let's check out this totally not an Eve. What you do is you boost a section, and then you sweep the frequency. Right, so there's that. I want that kind of reduced. Right, and that works out pretty well. And notice that I put this before the saturation. So this will behave differently depending on what's being fed into it, obviously. And these EQs have some interesting curves that they do. So what we can do is we can effectively accentuate the sweet spot of what's going on here. Right, like so. And we can choose what we want to smudge first. So we're feeding this frequency in there. Right, it has that nice little ring to it, I should say. And that does some really cool things. And maybe we'll just give this a try here. Right, so I don't think I explained that well. When you're using a console style EQ, you kind of boost a frequency, and then you sweep until you find something that might be a problem, and then you'll know where it is, and then you can reduce it. So that's the general workflow. And that's cooking as a way that you know, just how I give it a name. We're cooking the sound. Right, and if we're doing something intense, we don't want to, you know, feed a compressor, which we just added. Or no, this isn't really a compressor. This is more of a, it's more of a behavioral aspect of a console. So it depends on what's being fed into it. It'll add drive and things like that as well. that's starting to sound pretty neat. Let's get more into the dynamics aspect of it. I'm going to drag in this red guy here. And what this will do is this will kind of, we've effectively taken away some of the dynamics because we've smudged it with this. What we can do is we can kind of add it back in. Let's bring down the threshold and you'll see it. This is based on some sort of English compressor that's very popular. Give it more of an intense ratio. Right. And from here, let's go. There's one really cool one. What it's called. Yeah, Revival. That's it. Oh, one. Come on. After. There we go. So that's a very affected way of getting this bus and giving it more color and attitude. Because what we did there, we've effectively added color to it. Let's give you a play. Mind you, it's a little bit louder, but that's fine. We'll bring this down. Group those. Right, so from here, let's get some, I guess, we've added a lot to it. Let's kind of repair and accentuate what we have. I'm going to do this with one EQ this time. Right, so that right there is going to poke through the mix. And I'm going to listen to it in context with the little techno jam we have here. And let's give it a listen. So I can probably get rid of some of that low end. Some of that mid. Right, not that much. It makes a really big difference. And again, this roll off here is amazing. Makes it dark as well. All right, so there's that. What else can we do? Well, I'm going to get a little bit more creative, or whatever, however you want to describe it. I'm going to go into the kilohertz section here. I'm going to add a has effect. And if you can't see that, I'll make it bigger. Let's leave that. Right, so it's more, I'm working on it more in context with what's actually happening in the track here. Right, and what's going to accentuate that a little bit more before I do that is the transient shaper. This is my favorite transient shaper, and it just does some really cool stuff. The pump feature is just a really good feature. Makes it pump. I need to adjust the speed a little bit. Right, and we can accentuate that with a has effect, which is basically a stereo separation. That sounds interesting to me. All right, so there's that. I'm gonna get into more kind of not advanced stuff, but more stuff you haven't seen before. So this is our main kind of bus here. I'm actually going to add in an EQ, but I'm going to group this, and I'm going to do some mid-side separation between these two here. So I'm going to duplicate that. So one's going to be mid, one's going to be side. So I'm going to set this one, that first chain. I'll rename these so we can all kind of keep track. Right, so I'm doing some mid-side separation and processing. It just requires a little bit of setup. So this one, I'm going to select that, and I'm just going to remove all the sides. And this one, I'm going to remove all the mids. And then I'm going to get rid of those. So there we go. So one is mid, one is side. Right, and that gives us the flexibility to process these independently. And you can get a really neat effect that way. So from here, what we can do is, well, let's add another EQ and just kind of accentuate and see what we got here. So a high shelf to boost those highs there, and the side, what are we looking at? All right, we got that. There's the has effect too. All right, cool. So, you want to go back and check, like, what are we affecting when we're doing this? So the side, what would be really cool is kind of compressing or even doing some automation on the side material. So I'm going to set this compressor on the side, and the side chain input is going to be the mid pre-effect. And the ratio is going to be just extreme. Right, does something subtle. Right, I'm going to get the EQ in there. Let me listen to it. Nice, that sounds pretty cool. I like how that bites. It's like non-linear and stuff, depending on what's going on. All right, cool. Let's do maybe some more Mid processing. Could probably, maybe we could distort the side material, maybe. Right. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Okay. There's an effect there. Let's take a look at it in the EQ. All right, then we got a little bit too much volume there. Cool. Okay, so from here, we could probably... Let's do some tape. Tape will really kind of smudge it together. I'm using a slow speed, so there's kind of a gentle roll off on the top end. Let's get the fab filter compressor, and this will be something that will just obliterate the dynamics slightly. Turn off makeup gain. Turn on look ahead, fast attack. Smudge it again, and you know what? There's nothing wrong with doing things you've never done before, and doing things you've never done before involve dropping things in and just trying it out, because you never know, you might find something that really works. So I'm using a multi-band transient shaper now. Turn all three of these on. I'll leave that. Solo that one. I like the solo things because I can hear them. look how that moves. That's pretty cool. And this fills up it gives you a little bit more space as well. Yeah, it is doing something a little bit weird though. I need to sidechain that input. That's doing something interesting. All right, so from here, something I would add maybe some delay, which will kind of give it some space. Stop it. I hope this video is somewhat enjoyable. I'm gonna put in a glue compressor, but I'm gonna not really do much of anything with it. Just gonna turn on the soft clip and bring the makeup gain up. And then a sidechain compressor. Okay, so from here, I'm going to group all those together. And those are going to live in their own little box. And I'm going to add in a utility, and I'm going to do just some automations. This is the first automation I'm actually doing within this. I want things to be panned a little bit. So it's more hypnotic. And when you pan things, somehow, due to magic and fairy dust, it fits in the mix a little bit more, and you can actually reduce the volume a little bit. Yeah. Maybe some filter for this part. And this will give it a bit of movement. And maybe, yeah, another echo. Uh-oh. Yeah, okay. All right, so with the wet and the dry, I've effectively reduced the volume. And you know what? You can just keep on going. I guess there is a limit. What am I doing? I'm going to drop in a utility. Right, and that is that. And what I'll do is, I'll group this all together. And I'll just turn it off, give it a play. That's what we have, and then now we have this. Right, and it was fun, and it made a interesting video. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. I hope you learned stuff. Take care, and have a good one.